In the last 2 weeks, a number of states have introduced SNAP restriction waivers that affect how retailers can sell food and beverages at their stores. Today, we're going to talk about what that means to you in stores that are in those states and those of you who are in those states that are looking at this issue. So back in November, we had a podcast. It was episode 520 for those of you keeping score at home or you want to search it. And we called it How SNAP Food Restriction Waivers Will Affect Retailers. That was back in November. Well, guess what? It's January 1st. It's happened. So back in November, we talked to Margaret Mannion. She is the Director of Government Relations for NACS. She walked us through all these issues. It turns out, by the way, Margaret, one of the most popular episodes of the last 3 months. So obviously, there's a need to understand this. We have gone from it's going to happen to it has happened. So let's just start out. For those, we're using fancy words. If you didn't listen to the last one, we want to be able to catch up quickly. Talk about what are SNAP food restriction waivers and how do they apply in our industry?
Yeah, great to be back. A lot has happened in the last 2 months. We're officially live in 5 states, and SNAP waivers and this food restriction, this whole entire thing that we're facing is being run through USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And what we've seen over the past year is 18 different states request waivers from USDA to allow them to restrict certain items for sale with SNAP dollars, with the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. A lot of those states are targeting things like soft drinks, soda, energy drinks, candy. We're throwing in some extra spice. The state of Florida is doing prepared desserts. And I think that what we're facing now is the reality of implementing these waivers and actually restricting the purchases now that it's past January 1st.
And one of, I think, the key dates is, with government relations issues, they are fast moving. So we're talking about, we're having this conversation. It's January 8th, just for context, just in case things change in the next day or so. But we just had a NACS Daily story where NACS has submitted comments asking for some clarifications. But even going before that, it was December 30th, the day 2 days before these waivers were to take place, that clarification was issued, and that's not unusual with how things work inside the Beltway, and it tends to be. Things happen late or they happen however they happen. So that's what happened.
Yeah, Friday at 4:30 p.m.
Yes, that's anybody that's worked in government relations, and that's the joke. Or 501 or whatever it is. But anyway, it happened on December 30th and finally had some clarification, but that's clearly not enough time to adjust everything in a store, let alone a chain of stores, that may cross state lines where each state is different. So take us through what was the clarification, and then we'll talk about some of the problems that are related to the clarifications.
Yeah. I mean, releasing guidance at 8 p.m. on December 30th for something that goes into effect midnight January 1 in 5 states. That's already something that retailers were struggling with. We had been really pushing USDA and state agencies to put out this enforcement guidance that we were so desperately needing about, like, what is this actually going to look like in stores? How are you going to be monitoring this for retailers? If retailers are doing their best to implement restrictions and to restrict the sale of soda and candy for folks on SNAP, like, will we lose our license? Will we be fined? And we didn't have any answers to that until December 30th. And in that guidance, USDA said that beginning on every state's implementation date, so for 5 states that went live in January, and on January 1st, there were Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia. We have a 90-day grace period to get retailers up to speed and doing the restrictions at the checkout. After 90 days, they're going to start the USDA. They have this Office of Retailer Operations and Compliance, ROC. We love our acronyms here.
Yes, we do.
The ROC, they're going to start testing retailers for and including products like soda, like candy, with EBT cards to see if retailers are selling them or not to folks on SNAP. This is pretty standard across the program that we've seen in the past. There are always inspectors coming in monitoring compliance for SNAP retailers, trying to buy things that are not food, like plastic forks or paper plates, things like that. And so they're going to start including these products that are now restricted in states with waivers. And if you're found out of compliance, once you get a warning letter from USDA saying that you need to get into compliance, and you'll have an additional 30 days to get into compliance. And if you're found out of compliance again, you'll get an involuntary withdrawal from the program. And what that means is you will no longer be able to do SNAP at that location. There will be the ability to appeal that decision with USDA, and I am sure we will see many, many retailers do that.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. Yes, it is a lot.
And I think the biggest thing is, the baseball term, 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
And we've talked about, well, not on the podcast, but obviously baseball's trying to speed up games, but they're not going to 2 strikes. But apparently we are with SNAP restrictions. So it is 2 failures, and you could possibly be ineligible from having SNAP redemption programs for good.
Correct. You'll have the ability to reapply if you want to, and there will be a whole process afterwards if you choose to go down that route. But that's right. Yeah, it's a very strict 2-strike policy, and we're really concerned, frankly, that this is going to lead to a lot of retailers being pushed out of the program. And the thing that we always say for our industry, the role that convenience stores play in the SNAP program, this is something that we talked about a couple of months ago, last time I was on. We are that critical food access point in communities where there are no grocery stores, or where folks are, working a second or third shift and they need to go to a store in the middle of the night to buy milk. You can come to a convenience store to do that because we're 24/7. If we see retailers being pushed out of the program, especially if the retailers who are doing their best to comply with these restrictions, you're going to see a huge food access issue across the country. That has never been the case before.
Yeah, and I've been involved with food groups for well more than a decade as part of what my job entails. And understanding how people buy food when they're on SNAP is really important, because oftentimes they have to take a bus, or they have the ability every now and then, if they don't have a car, maybe every other week they're borrowing a car, or however it works. But if you don't have access to simple things like milk for breakfast cereal, eggs, various staples. So these are important in sometimes rural, sometimes metropolitan areas. But that could be a critical lifeline that people just will lose access to. And I think that there have to be a whole bunch of different groups that are looking at this along with NACS and saying this would punish customers equally, if not more, than anybody who has a violation here. And that's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I think, you said it exactly right. I talked to a retailer yesterday who said, it's not the convenience store that's going to be hurt, it's the community that the convenience store serves. And in our letter that we sent to USDA yesterday with the National Grocers Association, we requested some additional clarity around, are you going to be lenient with retailers that are making best faith efforts to comply? And instead of a 2-strike policy system, before going to the warning letter as your first, strike, we are asking for like education. So giving folks time to get into compliance, giving them the education, the materials that they may need to be able to get into compliance, to do restrictions at stores. So we'll see what USDA comes back to us with.
Yeah, and another big part of the education component is twofold. It's for retailers and it's for customers. And that's one of the things. The other big issue that certainly has gained traction as an issue we've talked about is the penny shortage. And with that, we've said not only do we need the federal ability to round up and round down, but there needs to be an education campaign, because I've talked to people, friends I went to some place and they rounded it up. I can't believe they took my 2 cents. And there's just a lack of awareness about why a retailer is rounding up. Some people just don't pay attention to that news. And same thing with SNAP. If it's like, wait, I've always been able to buy this. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm getting milk for my kids, and I just need an energy drink to stay up a couple more hours because I have another job to go to, or whatever it is. And now that's changed. So there has to be the education campaign, not done by retailers, but done to consumers by whatever entity, to say this has changed. Don't take it out on the clerk.
Yeah.
This is what they have to adhere to now.
That is exactly right. The past year, we have been pushing USDA and every state agency that is pursuing a restriction waiver to do a robust education campaign to SNAP customers. And I think a lot of them have tried as best as they can to get the word out there that this policy is changing. This is going to start happening on January 1st on these other implementation dates throughout the year. But I think what we're probably going to end up seeing is retailers being the ones to explain this complex policy change to customers. It's not the governor who's going to be behind the counter explaining why we've done this. It's that 19, 20-year-old convenience store employee. And that's a real challenge.
And signage is one part of that. But, there's a lot of signs at the gas pump. There's a lot of signs at a bunch of places. There's signs that say don't smoke at the gas pump, and there you go. You see people smoking. So I think it's important. Yes, signs will have to play a role, but there's going to have to be the conversations. And these are not things that really anybody in retail is equipped to have these complex legislative or regulatory conversations and still keep the line moving. Because we sell convenience, we sell speed of service, and if there's multiple issues where conversation has to take place, it's not fair to every other customer that's waiting for the fast service as well.
Right, and there are all these weird exceptions too that we haven't even talked about. I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called the flour exception, Jeff.
Yes, that has to do with candy, whether it has flour or not. And certain states have different rules, but you go into that for us.
Yeah, no. So a lot of these states for candy, they're using what's called a streamlined sales tax definition. And the interesting thing about this definition is, number one, it wasn't written for federal nutrition policy. It was written for tax policy. And what we're seeing in states like Idaho, they're restricting soda and candy. They're saying, yes, you can still buy, or you're not allowed to buy candy like gummy worms, Sour Patch Kids, but you can still buy Kit Kat bars, Twix bars, because they have flour in them, because this streamlined sales tax definition for some reason excludes any products with flour and says that that's not candy. Now imagine trying to explain that to somebody who has both things in their hands at the checkout and say, well, actually that one you can buy, but that one you can't buy. And then, oh, by the way, like, what sparkling water do you have in front of me? Is there an added juice to the sparkling water? Is there artificial flavoring in the sparkling water? Some states are saying that counts as a soda. Other states are saying that doesn't count as a soda or a soft drink. And Don't even want to go into the whole fountain beverage issue that our industry is very uniquely going to be facing this year. But we sell more fountain beverages than your average grocery store does. Retailers don't design their price books around what goes into the fountain beverage cup. They design their price books around the size of the fountain beverage cup. So I don't know if we're going to see folks trying to explain, well, this is actually like a lemonade in my fountain beverage cup. It's not a soda or soft drink. And that's just adding to the complexity and the challenge that we're going to see in stores.
And basically, you're talking about like if a fountain beverage is, say, 99 cents, I've seen our kids do this. There's 7 different flavors in there.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And so it's they're customized one, and you have places like Maverick that advertise here's different blends and things like that. So again, an additional complication.
Correct.
So 5 states: Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. That is reality now. Now, when we talked in November, we said this is gonna happen, and it's gonna happen in 13 more states. So if you aren't on this list right now of those 5 states, there are 13 more that are pending. And so we're looking at roughly, well, technically 36% of the states. Yeah. So more than a third, and who knows what is coming on the future. So this is an issue, and this is an issue that we continue to stay on top of, because we need as much clarity as we have to a very confusing situation right now.
Right.
Is there anything, now NACS is been out front for a while on this, communicating the industry's voice. Is there anything that retailers can do to either learn more or to help with their voice in talking about this issue, and just making it as easy as possible for customers who need SNAP to find out how this works?
Yeah, I think number one is just being aware that this policy change is happening. It's going to happen very rapidly. The last time that we talked, there were 8 states that were going to do January 1 implementation dates. As we've been discussing, it's only 5 that have gone live so far. The states that requested delays are Florida, Idaho, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. 3 of those states are going live next month in February. Florida is going live in April. We're seeing additional states throughout the rest of the year are going to be going live over the summer into the fall. And also, since we last talked, we're saying 18 states now. Last time we talked, it was 12. The new states that requested waivers that are going to be going live this year are Hawaii, Missouri, North Dakota, South Carolina, and West Virginia. And if you go onto USDA's website, they have all of this laid out on a nice map, so you can read all of these yourself if you like. But the education is the number one piece. Knowing if I operate in one of these states, if I do SNAP, I need to be getting ready. I need to look at the implementation dates, and I need to figure out, okay, develop a plan for myself. Which products am I selling? Which products do I have on shelves that fall under these definitions, whether it be soft drink, soda, energy drink, candy. The second thing that I will say that we have been pushing hard for, along with our friends at the National Grocers Association and FMI, we're really pushing states to provide retailers with UPC product code lists. So that is it's very simple, very straightforward. Just give us like an Excel document of however many products you think fall under this definition, and we'll implement it in our stores. The state of Oklahoma has very graciously provided that to retailers. It's about 18,000 products. I think I said that probably on our last conversation. But the state of Nebraska has just come out as well at the end of December with their own list of soft drinks that are banned. That makes it a lot easier for retailers to do restrictions, but it's still challenging because it doesn't include whatever products you might have that might be like local, regional specialties. If you have any private labels, like they'll still have to look through all of those products and see if they fall under these states' definitions for the things that will be restricted as well.
Well, as I said, we have gone from it's going to happen to it has happened, and now we're hearing more about what needs to be addressed and how do we add some clarity and how do we make this as efficient as possible. Because right now it's I guess the word is messy.
Yeah, very messy, somewhat chaotic. We're hoping that the 90-day grace period gives retailers enough of a cushion to get ready and to be, fully operational by the time the grace period ends. But I will say, please stay in touch with me and with NACS if you do see enforcement action taken against your stores. We want to be able to provide resources if we can to help retailers who are struggling to get into compliance. There are dozens, I think, now of different groups that are providing these lists for a fee. But definitely recommend you reaching out to your state agencies, even your state associations, if you haven't already, to really get them to lean on the state agencies to provide these lists and to provide further clarifications on what products should be restricted and what products aren't.
Well, Margaret, thank you as always for the update. Who knows? We'll probably be talking again soon about this issue or something else as other regulations take place over the coming weeks, months, whatever that is. But thank you for the update. This is an important issue, and this is uncharted territory that we're now charting. So thanks for giving us a little bit of a roadmap on this.
Thank you. Yes, I am sure we'll be in touch. Exciting times.
Exciting times. And thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.